Hello, my name is Marissa Knapp, and this is my Instructional Design Final Project Paper presentation. The model ID that I designed is called the AIE Assess Model ID, which stands for Analyze, Implement, Evaluate, and Assess. The AIE Assess model is based upon the cognitive learning theory, in which students' thought processes are of primary importance to instruction. This model ID interprets this idea by placing a high emphasis on assessment throughout the instruction process. A key aspect of placing an importance on student thought processes is including the variations that will occur within each group of students as well as in each student individually, allowing learners to be actively involved in the lesson. Assessment should take place during each and every part of the phase in the design model to ensure that the instruction methods are effective for the individuals being taught. And here is the graphic that I designed to display my model ID. First, I'm going to do a brief overview of the AIE Assess model. During the Analyze stage, you will determine the ability of the students, develop the instructional goals, and design the supporting activities. At the end of this phase, you will assess. You will assess the student's ability to complete the assignments. The next stage is Implement. During this stage, you will teach the lesson, provide directions for the activity, and allow time for independent or group work. Following the group time, you'll have a review session where you can discuss what was learned during the lesson and answer any questions that the students might have had. After this stage, you will again assess. During this assessment, you will check the students' understanding and knowledge that was gained during the learning session. Finally, you have the Evaluate stage, during which you will review the assessments that were made throughout the instructional session. You will check for understanding and provide a follow-up assessment. And then again, you assess. But this time, you not only assess the student's knowledge, but also the effectiveness of the instruction. Now that I have told you about my model ID, I will talk to you about the project that I have designed. It is for 4th and 5th grade students, and its purpose is to teach the importance of a variety of presentation tools. Now I get to the purpose of my presentation, describing the process of implementing my AID model ID into my instructional session. Analyze stage, determine student ability. I found this portion of the model ID a bit challenging at first. This aspect of the model is designed more specifically for the instructor of the lesson, and is based on the actual abilities of the students to whom the lesson will be taught. Since I did not actually teach this lesson, I could not truly determine the student abilities. So instead, I selected a classroom that I had taught during my student teaching and based my instruction off of their abilities. Develop instructional goals. Developing the instructional goals for this lesson went very smoothly. Since I knew the topic of my lesson and had an idea of the students I wanted to be teaching, I began by thinking about what I wanted the students to accomplish. Since the purpose of this lesson was for students to learn to present information in the form of a picture movie, the main goal would be for them to learn how to make a picture movie. That is, to create a movie using only pictures that will convey a story to the audience. Design supporting activity. After I had established the main goals of the lesson and selected the supporting objectives, it only made sense that the next step be to design the activities. To stay in accordance with the cognitive learning theory that the AIE model is based on, I felt the best way for the students to acquire this new skill and allow them the freedom to think through the process was for them to actually make a picture movie. Using this method of teaching, the students will be able to learn through their own personal experiences, which helps them to retain knowledge better as well as give them a more enjoyable learning experience. These are the steps that the students will follow during this lesson. First, create a story, make a storyboard for their movie, take the pictures sketched out in their storyboards, use a video editing software like Windows Movie Maker or iMovie to arrange the photos in correct order, and finally, use that same program to edit their movie, adding music and text to enhance the themes behind their pictures. Assess. Assessing this part of the lesson would only provide minimal amounts of information, while the instructor would be able to look through the stories that the students had created and review their storyboards. These pieces of information will not accurately display the student's understanding of how to create a picture movie. Stage 2, implementation. Teach the lesson. This portion of the ID model was again a little tricky to implement. Since I did not actually teach the lesson, I could not truly complete this step. The best I could do is to plan each step of the lesson in a manner so someone would be able to complete the instruction. In order to do this, I thought of the steps I would take if I were to teach this lesson, and tried to describe them in as much detail as possible, directing the instructor with what needed to be said and what the student should be doing at any particular time. Directions for activity. For this section, since I was not actually implementing the lesson, I again described how I would prepare the students to begin the activity. During the introduction to the lesson, I described for the students what a picture video is, and then showed them various examples of picture videos completed by other students. Finally, I instructed the students to begin making their own picture videos, following the steps discussed during the analysis phase. Once these instructions have been given, the students will be ready to begin their work. Group or independent work time. During this time, the students will follow the steps developed in the analysis stage. Begin by brainstorming ideas for their project, and then putting these ideas down to paper, more than likely in the form of a storyboard, where they will sketch out what each photo should look like in order for them to tell their story. Next, the students will take their photographs and use a movie-making software to put them in the correct order. Finally, allowing them to edit their video, adding in whatever music or text they feel is appropriate for their theme. Review and discuss. This aspect of the Model ID did not fit into this instructional session. Since the conclusion for this lesson is to complete an assignment, there should be no additional questions at the end. Assess. Developing opportunities for assessment during this portion of the lesson was much easier. First, the instructor reviews the students' written segments or storyboards, and then the students are creating the picture video for the professor to observe and evaluate while they're completing their work. This allows not only for assessment, but a great opportunity for additional instruction as well. Evaluation stage. Assess during every stage. Creating assessment opportunities during each stage of this lesson was challenging. This lesson was different from others that would normally be directed for this age group. Since the entirety of the lesson leads to the creation of a single project, there's not very much assessment required. That is, until the very final stages of the assessment. However, I was able to incorporate some assessment during the beginning stages of the activities as well. Check for understanding. The only part of this lesson where the instructor could check for understanding is during the sharing of the students' videos. During this time, the teacher will be able to visually see how well each student understood the objectives to the lesson by their incorporation into the student's video. Follow-up assessment. I was not able to incorporate this aspect of the Model ID into my instruction segment, as there is no need for follow-up assessment. Assess. This final aspect of assessment not only assesses the learner's overall knowledge that was gained during the lesson, but also the instructional session itself. Based on how much the students were able to learn, the instructor should be able to know how effective the instructional session was. Overall integration. As a whole, integrating the AIE Model ID into this lesson went very smoothly. There were only a few sections that I was unable to implement, and only a couple beyond that which caused true complications. The nature of this lesson made it difficult to implement the assessment at every stage of instruction, because the majority of the lesson was observing the students as they completed an assignment. There were no worksheets to review and no homework to distribute for reinforcement. Additionally, since the lesson was not actually being taught, this caused problems in incorporating the Model ID because much of the AIE theory is based upon actual student information and interactions. However, in spite of these complications, I feel the Model ID still held true throughout the lesson and was able to incorporate the importance of the cognitive learning theory, allowing students to think thoroughly through the learning process.